right behind Darren is a sign that says "Do it right, no excuses, no apologies, direct truck and diesel repair." Where did that come from?
I think what it came from is I would always tell the guys, do it right? Just do it right. I don't care how you're doing it, just do it right. You know, don't make any excuses. And then what I realized is when I would have to tell them, do it right, no excuses, because what I realized is when they started making excuses, I had to start making apologies.
To customers?
Yeah, like say a guy doesn't do something right, then I'm like, hey, what happened? And then he comes back to me and he's like, well, this and that, and you can hear the excuses starting to flow. Now I'm going to have to call somebody and go, hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to finish today.
Excuses from the tech.
Yeah, excuses from the tech makes me have to apologize. So I always kind of said, and I don't know how to clean this up, I have to eat the crap sandwich they made. Because they don't have to deal with the customer, I do. You know, so I got to call the guy and go, hey, remember how we promised you your truck could be done today? It's not going to be. And then if they ask why, I got to tell them why. Hey, we messed up a part, we messed up a seal, we got a leak. You know.
When did you come up with that? When?
I don't even know. Probably a couple years ago. I just always believed in my grandfather's kind of like that. It's just like craftsmanship and doing something great and doing something right. So he was always proficient in that, and I think it was always like that even when me and my brother started early on. We had a drywall business, and it's just like I didn't really care how much we got paid. To this day, I still don't care how much we really get paid. It's not about the money. It's about doing something right. I mean, just doing it to the best of your ability. Be proud of what you do. And I hate when people make excuses. I love when somebody goes, hey, you know that brand new pump you just gave me? I just shattered it. You know what I mean? Right? I mean, kind of the saying that I think in our business that should always be true, if you screw up, you pay. In other words, if I fix your truck and I do it right, I expect you to pay me what we agreed to.
Okay.
But if I screw up, I got to pay. You know, and I try to warranty parts and labor if we're putting OE parts in. I can't always do that on some jobs, but I always feel it's unfair. Can you help me? But if they can't, they can't. But I don't feel like, you know how people do this all the time. They'll break a part, destroy a part or something and say, hey, it was in the box, that's the way it was. You can't do that, man. It's just like
just shiesty.
It is. And there's a bunch of scammers out there, and I think that it's just horrible. But
I mean, if I could help you out, I would sell it to you at cost.
I know, and I might ask for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not your fault. Why should you have to eat it? Why should you have to, you know, lose your margin because we made a mistake?
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things where how do you get people to just understand that we're responsible for what we do? We just are. And I think a lot of people just, they don't feel that. Like, it's not my problem. Like, say you spend $5,000 to repair your truck, right?
Okay.
Part fails. It's a good part. It's an OE part, and it fails. In a week, you bring it back. Hey, this thing's leaking like a pig. And I look, yep, sure enough, injector pump's bad or whatever. We need to get you a new one. So the parts house gives me a new one, whoever I bought it from, right? They'll give me another one. They'll warranty it. But who's going to pay me to do it? So then what if I tell you, hey, that's an 8-hour job, so now you're going to have to pay me $800.
You just did it, Darren.
But yeah, it's not fair to you, right? So then you get mad. Well, the part, whoever sold me the part, they're not going to help me. But it's unfair to you, right? So most of the time I'll just eat the labor, because I feel like if I paid $5,000 to somebody and a part failed, and they're like, hey, well, we're going to get you a new part. Which, like, I remember one time before we started doing engines, I paid a guy to rebuild an engine for us because we couldn't find it. So he built it, just a little 4-cylinder nothing, right? So he rebuilt it, and then we have a problem with it. So I said, hey, you got to have some warranty on this engine. He goes, yeah, it's on the parts only. I said, so you're telling me if a piston ring breaks that costs $22, you'll give me the $22, but you're going to charge me 30 hours, and I got to take the engine out for you to rebuild it? He's like, yeah. Right? Like, that can't be right on any planet, right? So anyways. Well, there's no room, because it's not a perfect science what we do. It's complicated. It's not like back in the day when everything was mechanical. It was pretty straightforward.
The science of repairing vehicles.
Yes.
Okay.
You gotta have a ton of computers, a ton of stuff to figure a lot of this stuff out, and a lot of times it'll be gray area. You have this intermittent problem. It's not so much intermittent. It does happen. Like, you can get it to happen on the road. Like, people think it's super simple. Like, we just look at this computer and we look at the data and it says replace this. Just put this in it and it will fix it. No, it just points us in a direction. So,
don't even get started on electrical.
Right, and especially intermittent electrical. You know what I mean? It's a nightmare in trying to explain to people. We cannot fix what's not broken. In other words, I'm not saying your truck is fixed. I'm just telling you it's not broken right now. Well, can you fix it? You know, can you fix it? Yeah, we can fix it, but it needs to be broken. Your truck breaks for about 5 minutes, and then we start testing it. Now everything's fixed, so you'll have a computer hooked up to it. You know, you have a laptop hooked up, and you're looking at that code to make sure it's still active. It's still active, so you're doing whatever testing you're doing, right? And you're checking. Then all of a sudden that code goes inactive. You're done. Because now every part of the check is going to check out right. Smooth. Right. I mean, it's just not simple. And people just, it's the same conversation. Imagine you're talking to not a fleet manager, but you're talking to just a layman, right? And so you say to the guy, there's nothing wrong with your truck right now. Oh, so it's fixed. No, sir, it's not fixed. I'm sure your driver is having the problem he's saying because it logged the code, you know, like 5 times. So I'm sure he's having that problem. Well, so can he drive it? Is it going to be fixed? No. I mean, I don't know when it's going to break.
I cannot duplicate.
Right. I can't.
Problem cannot be duplicated.
So if we pick up the truck, we'll be okay? I don't know. I mean, it hasn't happened to us, but it could happen. Well, so if there's still a problem with it, why can't you fix it? And I say once again, because it's not broken now. And I've said this, and this is perfectly logical to me, but I think to most people it's not. You can't fix what's not broken. They don't comprehend that. When it's electronic, it can work one time. Sometimes it's just temperature. Yep. Like you've seen things before. I'm sure you've seen it.
I've seen a coil pack fail when it was hot. It gets cold, it works.
Right. Yeah. Once it's cold, because when the heat goes up, when resistance goes up, voltage drops, and I mean that's kind of just the way. But we've had coolant leaks before. Like we will not turn a truck loose if we did AC work or coolant. If we finish it that day, you can't pick it up that day because we're going to check it the next morning. We've had trucks that we test drive, pressure test them, not only vacuum them, pressure test them, test drive them, they have no leaks. Come back the next morning and there's a cold leak. Only leaks when it's cold, doesn't leak when it's hot. We've seen them the other way too, where they don't leak where they're cold. Same thing with AC. You finish an AC job, you're completely done, you check the Schrader valves, you check everything with a sniffer, with everything, all the tools we have, and you've got no leaks. You know, it's blown at 35 degrees or whatever. This thing's money.
And it gets hot?
And then no, it just sets overnight. It just sets overnight because Freon's constantly under pressure, so it just sits there overnight. And then you'll go check one of the Schrader valves in the morning, because we put dye in it. Turn on a light, check it, friggin' Schrader valves leaking. When we didn't do that before, we'd say, okay, it's money. There's no leaks. Everything's clean. Everything's perfect. So we turn to the guy, and the guy brings it back 4 days later and says, my air conditioning's not working. So now we just make it a policy of everything we touch, every seal, everything like that, the next day after it sat overnight. So, whatever temperature it was, but first thing in the morning, we check all that stuff, check all the fittings and make sure we don't have any leaks. But what we do sounds simple, right? If you're just a guy that's getting your stuff worked on, it just sounds simple, right? And if you work at the local Dodge dealership or you work at you're working on the same crap every day. I mean, you see the same problems every day, so it's pretty easy. Yeah,
code X57283.
Right.
Oh, that's whatever part, yeah.
When I had all my tow trucks and they were internationals, I could sometimes diagnose them. If you gave me 2 codes, because I worked on them all the time, I could be wrong, but I could usually tell you what it was. Yeah. Put a cam sensor in it. If you have those 2 codes with this code, that's a cam sensor. Could be a wire, but it's probably...
I'm sure you can hear trucks coming.
You can. You can hear the noise. Like I can hear, there's certain noises that I can hear. I'm like, that thing has a bad exhaust valve, especially on big trucks, because the air filter is hooked up to like a vent, usually in the hood somewhere, and it resonates through the air filter, and then it resonates through that vent, like on the side of the hood, and you hear this pop, 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 pop. And you open the hood, you don't hear it that much, but you close the hood because it becomes like a megaphone. So I can hear that noise. I'm like, I don't know what that truck's in for, but it's got a bad exhaust valve. It may be making compression, running great, but that thing's going to lose an exhaust valve. I can hear it, it's leaking. And I love fixing stuff. The best part about anything is somebody brings you something that's friggin' broken. Yeah. And the best part is when somebody brings you something broken that somebody else couldn't fix. Because we get a lot of stuff like that. It's been to this guy and this guy. One guy spent $5,000 on his truck, and they just threw parts at it, you know what I mean? And we finally fixed it for him, right? But it's like nothing feels better than somebody brings you something broken, and you do all the diag. You figure it out. You come up with an estimate. You get the parts. You put the parts on, and you've guessed right, because what we do is guessing. It's educating guessing, but we guess, and you put it on, and there's nothing that sounds better to me. I still love the fact when the guys are working on a motor or putting a motor back together, when I start hearing it crank and I can hear it purging, I'm like, I got to go out there. I don't go buy them, but I just stand outside. And once I hear it start running, it sounds so cool. And there's that fuel knock because there's air in it. It's just not running right. And you hear it slowly start clearing up and start clearing up and start clearing up. And then pretty soon it starts idling smooth. I love that sound because that's something when they brought in was blown up and didn't run, and now it does. People buy diesel trucks who think they want a diesel truck, but they had a gas truck before, and so they think, oh, well, we just put an oil filter, we go to Jiffy Lube and they put oil. No, a diesel's not like that. It's just not like that. You know what I mean? And if that's
a lot of people think that. And a diesel's like a BMW or a Mercedes.
If you think that's how you're going to take care of it,
it's a supermodel.
Yeah, you should just be done. Who this person is.
Have you seen the pricing on the new one?
I know.
Man, I went to the dealership the other day.
$70,000
to $90,000 for F-350 King Cab or King Larry or what?
King on King's Ranch. You don't know your Fords. King's Ranch.
I'm not a Ford guy. I'm a GM guy.
Oh, it's sad.
But they're laying a bunch of people off anymore.
I don't even know how we're friends.
I don't either, dude.
Here's what I think happens. Like I have a customer specifically that's had somebody like change oil and do lubes for him for many, many years. So when he found me, I do all the repairs and stuff like that. And so I told the guy, I said, hey, your guy that's changing oil for you, he's not doing you any favors, bro. He goes, I said, he's not checking the trucks. The most important thing when somebody's changing oil for you is to look at the truck. And so he talked to his other guy and he said, well, he's kind of concerned with, things around eye level. I just laughed. All the problems are under the truck. I mean, they're under the truck and you need somebody with eyes on it. You need somebody who knows what they're doing. So
eye level.
He said that, eye level. So what I started doing for him when we work on his trucks is we do a courtesy inspection on every truck. We just do it. I mean, if he brought it in and said, hey, it's not starting right or it's not running right, I'd tell my guys do a courtesy inspection before anything.
Okay.
We'd find air filters that were plugged. We found one air filter, and this truck was running like crap. Gas engine, running like crap. Ford, I don't know what it was. And so I was like, so you start looking at stuff. Guy pulls the air filter off. The air filter was so plugged. You know those ones that are like cone-shaped air filters? They got like a I think it's like a black rubber piece on this end.
Yeah, it's like a little jet.
Yeah,
like the front of a rocket.
Right.
Yes.
It was trying to suck itself inside out. It was so plugged it had collapsed. It was starting to turn inside out.
Nice.
See, that's a problem. So when you're going and getting those cheap ass oil changes, and this guy's really hooking you up, like one of my customers, we serviced a bunch of buses for him. He said, hey, I hate to tell you, but I had to call MTI out or whatever to do some oil changes. And, I just had to get them done. I said, well, I didn't know about them. He goes, well, the trucks stay here too long. And I said, okay. I said, but I'm just telling you, that guy can't do what we do.